Hey everybody, it's Pete Evick with the Bret Michaels Band. I'm here today to talk to you about Amplitube 4. Some of you may have read the articles that I wrote in Guitar World magazine a few years ago where I talked about how much I loved Amplitube 3 and how I couldn't have made the last 3 Bret Michaels records without that software. We made those records out on the bus and out on tour. Obviously, you couldn't mic amps, and it did a wonderful job, and I was sold completely on amp emulation from there on out. So I've probably been anticipating the arrival of Amplitube 4 more than anybody I know. And then the guys at IKEY Multimedia told me that they were going to emulate the Marshall Jubilee, which is my favorite amp of all time. If you see, I actually have the real thing built in the 80s right there that's in my home studio. And so what I want to do today is something that I don't know that I've seen many people do, is I'm going to make a video where I'm actually going to record a track with that amp, and I'm going to record the same exact track with the software right in front of your eyes and show you how incredible the software sounds. It's identical to the amp. I've played with it and tweaked it. We're going to use the same mic to the mic emulation. We're going to use the same preamp. We're going to use the same exact settings on the amp, and it is so identical that it will blow your mind. So let's get started. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to talk about my actual amp. It is the 50-watt Marshall Jubilee, and it for those of you guys that know the Jubilee amp, you know that the special thing about it was it had a power switch that could cut the power in half by 50%. If you notice, I have it on the low power button right there. I have it on low, which makes it a 25-watt amp. The emulation in Amplitube 4 is exactly that. It is of the 50-watt head, and it doesn't have a high or low setting. It's always set on low, which was because that was the preferred setting for everyone that used these amps. Next thing I want you to notice is that we're just going to be really basic here. I have one SM57 going directly onto the cone of the 112-inch speaker. So that's the live amp that we're going to use, and we're going to go over now and we're going to record a track. So what we're going to do here is we're going to record a little 4-bar loop in Pro Tools. I have a little drum loop set up, and I have 2 tracks. I have a 1 track set up for the mic amp, and I have 1 track set up for the Amplitube track. And first thing we're going to do is the mic amp. Again, I wanted to tell you we're going through an SM57 straight into an API 512 preamp, and then right into Pro Tools. What you hear at first is going to be kind of loud and distorted because the amp's right here in the room with us. But the outcome we're looking for is for it to sound exactly the same through the playback speakers as Amplitube, and that's what we're going to prove right now. So I'm going to start the rig, I'm going to do a little 4-bar progression, and then we're going to move on. Alright, so you can look at the wave file right here. You can see what it looks like. I'm going to trim it real quick. I'm going to disengage the record button and play the loop. So the next thing we're going to do is record the same exact track with the Amplitube software emulation of the Marshall Jubilee. Before we get to that, I want to switch over to the cabinet side of the software and show you guys really quick. If you look in right here, you'll see that I'm using the emulation of an SM57 microphone, put dead center, just like we were doing on the real amp, identical in every way. We're in the Studio B room, which is a lot like the room I'm in right here with a carpet on the floor. It's closest thing to the emulation of the actual room that I'm in. One of the cool things about Amplitube 4 is the new way to pick the cabinets is great. If you look over here, you can actually pick the speakers inside the cabinet. That's unbelievable. You can pick the microphone and the microphone settings just like you used to do, but it's a little bit more visual now. You can move things around either right here, or you can move things around right in the cabinet. You can pick the room you're in, which is a big deal to me. Again, we're in Studio B, which emulates the room that I'm working in right now. And then the other thing you can do is now you have this internal mixer to mix the ambient microphones and mic 1 and mic 2. For this particular experiment, as I said before, I'm using 1 mic, an SM57. So as you can see, I have the second mic down and I have the room mic down so that it's exactly as we were recording with the real amp. So now we're going to go back to the amp setting here, and I'm going to start record, and we're going to lay the same exact track I just did with the real amp with the software. so now we have both tracks recorded, the live and the emulated track. If you look right here, this is Amplitube's waveform, and if you look right here, this is the mic'd amp, and they're pretty much identical with the same size, the same shape. A couple of minor differences, but again, it has to do with the room, and you can't do everything exactly the same. One more time, I wanted to point out that I took the live track to the SM57 into my API 512 preamp, and then to record the Amplitube track, I plugged my guitar straight into the 512. So we do have the API interface in the chain both times. And so if you put both tracks together, you're going to hear this. But what's interesting to me and what you guys all want to hear is this is the mic'd track by itself, just the real amp. And now I'm going to solo just the Amplitube track. So there you have it. Both of those tracks sound so close that if you didn't know which one was which, you would not be able to tell me. I guarantee you, you would not be able to tell me which was the emulator and which was the amp. There may be a little bit of tonal difference, but let's be honest, anybody that knows anything about recording knows that one 57 sounds different than another 57, and that software is not emulating the actual room I'm in, it's emulating a studio somewhere else. So just those two differences alone make slight differences whether you're recording live amps or with software, and you still can't really tell the difference in any way, shape, or form. I guarantee you that if you were blindfolded and I asked you to tell me which one was the amp and which was the software, you could not. I've been playing that Marshall Jubilee for 30 years. I've been playing the real amp for 3 decades, and I'm telling you that my own ears and my own hands can't hear and feel the difference between this software. I was a huge fan of Amplitube 3, and now Amplitube 4 emulates my favorite amp of all time, and it's doing it amazingly. So don't hesitate. If you don't already have Amplitube 4, go out and get it right now.